Want to welcome back Joseph Humire, Director, Center for a Secure Free Society. And Joseph, I want to say this is probably going to be I don't want to say favorite segment, because I think everything that you've talked about is extremely important. But the reason that I feel like this is extremely important, especially in my heart, is I am Venezuelan. I was born in Venezuela. I still have family in Venezuela. So I have a lot of interest in what happens in that country. And of course, you know, the interest has always been, how did Venezuela become a socialist country and all those things? And we could talk about that later. But I really want to talk about the infiltration of Iran, specifically in Venezuela, and the connection that they have. It's almost like a sisterhood, right? It's almost like Iran and then little Iran, and Venezuela is little Iran. And how they actually played a role in the socialization of Venezuela, with Hugo Chavez as a big player in this. But I want you to kind of walk us through, explain everything, why Venezuela, what it means for us. Are there nuclear weapons in Venezuela yet from Iran? All those things in this segment. So go ahead. You have the floor.
Yeah. So I mentioned this. I alluded to this earlier, that I think Venezuela has other characteristics that kind of go above and beyond these other countries in Latin America when it comes to Iran and Hezbollah. Venezuela has become much what Cuba was to the Soviet Union during the Cold War, kind of its principal proxy in the Western Hemisphere. I refer to it as a platform because it's become weaponized. Venezuela's become weaponized to have many methods to attack the United States, whether it's migrants, drugs, terrorists, or even weaponry, drones, missiles, and potentially even some nuclear activities. And we'll get into that. But the main reason that Venezuela was targeted in this way was two. One, because of Hugo Chavez. Obviously, Hugo Chavez became pretty much, he was like essentially a game changer in Latin America, to taking a region that would have had a lot of prosperity and opportunity, to taking it 100% towards conflict, corruption, and basically the destruction of their institutions and society. Hugo Chavez was that. Not just for Venezuela, he wasn't for the entire region, because his tentacles of his illicit oil money basically got into all the elections in Latin America. That's the first factor. The second factor is, and I talked about this, Hezbollah penetrates Lebanese communities. There's a very large Lebanese community and Syrian community in Venezuela. You know very well, Debbie, being from there and having family there. And, if there is a community in Latin America of Lebanese expatriates that are most captured by Hezbollah, it's the Venezuelan one. When you have people with the name of Tarek El-Aissami being one of the most important people in your government, you know that community has been captured by Iran and Hezbollah. So what have they done with this? And I'm going to use it as a statistic to kind of give you the sense of the magnitude of this. Today, there are more Venezuelans in Syria than there are in Brazil. Right? There's about 280,000 Venezuelans in Brazil, which is right next to Venezuela, and upwards of 350,000 Venezuelans in Syria. Why is that? There's a certain part of Syria that's called the Little Venezuela, Azawaida. It's where they speak Spanish, eat arepas, and Arabic. And it's a stronghold for Hezbollah and Russia and Iran that were defending the dictator Bashar al-Assad in Syria. So the same reason that Syria is so important to Iran to have that kind of land bridge from the Levant and Lebanon through into Iran is the same reason Venezuela is so important, because it's the air bridge to get all their activities into the Western Hemisphere to attack the United States. Logistics. So the reason you have these two big communities is because Iran, Hezbollah have built a logistical network from Syria to Venezuela to basically destabilize the world. And so that's the real big so what on Venezuela.
On Venezuela. Tell me a little bit about this Tarek El-Aissami. Who is he and where is he now?
So he's probably the most important man in Venezuela. Everyone focuses on Nicolas Maduro because he's the face of the regime. He's the president of the country. But really, under Maduro, there's very important people, and probably nobody more important than Tarek El-Aissami, because he's been the minister of probably about just every important ministry in the economy and this national security of Venezuela. He was the minister of interior. He was the minister of petroleum. He was the minister of mining, the minister of national industry. He was the vice president of the country. He was also a governor of a very important state called Aragua. But the most important thing that I think Tarek El-Aissami did, among a bunch of things, was when he was starting his career, this is back in 2007-8 under Chavez, he was the minister of interior, and he created an immigration scheme to basically document members of Hezbollah, Hamas, and others to be able to have a complete fake identity. Why that's so important for the United States is because the number one source country of migration to the U.S. southern border is Venezuelan. But there is no way that we know with any kind of certainty that all those are Venezuelans, because what Tariq al-Assami did as the Ministry of Interior in charge of their immigration system was giving them not just passports and visas, a full suite of documents, driver's license, bank records, property records, to take someone from Lebanon and to say that he was born in Venezuela when he never even stepped foot in Venezuela and doesn't even speak Spanish. That's the level of support that Tariq al-Assami provided. And that's creating a conundrum for immigration, because we don't know all the Venezuelans that are in the United States if they're actually truly Venezuelans.
Oh my goodness! So you're saying that the million plus people that have come through the border from Venezuela, some of them could be Hezbollah.
I know for a fact that there's some that are. We're documenting some of these cases, and we're looking at them. And there's one case in particular that I'll be able to talk to you about. They'll be in very short order, but it's not public yet. But we'll talk about it soon. And what I'm saying is, it is not a big percentage, right? So there's 7.7 million Venezuelans that have fled that country since 2014, the largest mass migration in the history of the Western Hemisphere, and the largest currently in the world, larger than Syria, larger than Ukraine. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't take that many. It can literally be less than 1% of that that's tied to this illicit security scheme that Tariq al-Assami erected in Venezuela. And that we're talking about in the thousands, of people. And, when 19 hijackers were able to cause chaos in 9/11 in 2001 in the United States, you can only imagine what 1,000 terrorists could do operating throughout our country.
So is he still in Venezuela? Because I thought that he was under indictment. Like in 2019, is he there? Is he still operating? What is he doing?
But there's an indictment by the Department of Justice against Tariq al-Assami and many other leaders of the Venezuelan government, including Nicolas Maduro himself. And there's a lot of confusion because he recently resigned as the Minister of Petroleum, and people took that as him losing power. But in Venezuela, the ministers aren't like they are in Switzerland, right? They're not like really functional ministers that have his main operations are outside the government. And according to our research, he hasn't changed anything. He's still operating in Venezuela, no longer in the public light as a minister, now in the shadows. But that's probably where he's even more dangerous. Tariq al-Assami is still active in Venezuela. He's still powerful, and he's still involved in a lot of the things that are happening with Iran and Hezbollah in the Western Hemisphere.
Wow. Well, when we come back, I want to talk about the term pink tide. Because I think it's very, Dinesh didn't even know what that was, actually. So let's explore it. Let's talk about it when we come back. After menopause, I gained over 20 pounds, and I struggled to lose it. But thankfully, PhD weight loss came to the rescue. I've lost 24 pounds, and Dinesh has lost 27, and we're both now on maintenance and loving it. The program is based on science and nutrition. No injections, no pills, no hours in the gym, no severe calorie restriction, just good, sound, scientifically proven nutrition. It's so simple. They make it easy by providing 80% of your food at no additional cost. And they tell you when and what to eat. And guess what? You can do this without ever being hungry. I'm living proof. I'm always hungry, but I wasn't during the program. The founder, Dr. Ashley Lucas, has her PhD in chronic disease and sport nutrition. She's a registered dietitian as she helps people lose weight and, most importantly, maintain that weight loss for life. So if you're ready to take the step of losing weight like Dinesh and I have, call PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition at 864-644-1900 or find them online at myphdweightloss.com. That number again is 864-644-1900.